We're going to start in butterfly because they're so pretty. So bring the bottoms of your feet together. 2 hands length away from your groin. Maybe grab onto your shins, reach your chest up to the ceiling, let your head drop back, take a nice full breath, and with your exhale, side out through your mouth and roll down into the forward bend of butterfly. So a couple people can put their head right onto their feet. Most people don't. So you're somewhere before that, either just dropping your chin to your chest or easing forward slowly. In our yin practice, we don't want to force anything. We want to really notice where the nuance is and we can surrender to things. So now that you've found the right shape for your body, for your day, just allow yourself to become soft and non-fighting. We want to practice kind of being right here, right now, without an agenda, without a need to reach a goal at a certain time. We can even use our imagination to kind of feel that in our yin poses, by staying in them longer, we have moments where we can be outside of time, where you're just softening into the present moment. Your present state. Without pushing or pulling or fighting or wishing it was somewhere different. Feel your inhale, mentally trace it with your mind as it enters your body. Notice the natural pause and follow your breath, how it moves through your body, out of your body. Being spiritual beings in our earthly life. Our earthly life marked by our breath. And these little pauses between our inhale and our exhale, and our exhale and our inhale. It's called Kumbhaka. And in those moments, we actually have the different autonomy in our body and our awareness than when we're in the process of inhaling and exhaling. Maybe we get to touch on that part of us that stretches further than our first breath and our last breath of one lifetime. With your inhale, you're going to roll up and lean back onto your elbows, coming into fish. So you can shimmy your elbows closer together to pop your chest up a little bit. Continue to let your knees fall out to the sides with your feet together in prayer. And if it's okay for your neck, you're going to drop your head back and let your head hang, feeling that you're just the weight of your skull is massaging your trapezius muscles here. Get to know the shape and the pose right now, today, in your body, right here. Notice how your inhales and your exhales feel different than they did in the last pose, perhaps. So we've entered a time where we have this really interesting phenomena where you'll notice in conversation or in presentation even that people will announce that they're spiritual, or even someone else's. Or we'll be talking about a partnership and say, oh, I'm quite spiritual, but my partner's not. Or they have a practice and I don't, but they're spiritual and I'm not. And to someone who lives in the beingness of the world and the kind of the practice of being human, and this really the atavism, this it's more than just beingness, it's a sacred beingness of everything. It's in those regards, it's ludicrous to say, oh, they're not spiritual. So what are we actually trying to communicate? Let your elbows slide out to the side. And today, bring your hands into a mudra. You're going to bring your thumbs together and your index fingers together, and you're going to spread out your other fingers and you line up. You just slide your thumbs to right where your head and the ground meet without lifting your head. It's like you've got your crown now. What I find interesting is I've noticed that these claims of being spiritual and not spiritual aren't always lined up with someone who has a practice. For instance, nowadays there's so many different types of yoga. There's like yoga you can go to and there'll never be any mention of the subtle bodies, the bandhas, or kind of the invisible world. And it's all about muscle and exercise and workout. And so people can engage in that, but they're doing yoga. So it's kind of got that like spiritual, tag. While another person can be busy claiming that they're not spiritual, yet they always speak the truth. They are kind with their words. They are adhering to a certain morality that guides their choices. And while they don't claim to be spiritual, for me, this is also one of these spiritual practices. Like I think one of the main spiritual practices, tell the truth and be kind about it. So I always, because of my, disposition, how I look at the world, how I've grown up, I always kind of giggle to myself when someone's like, oh yeah, I'm not spiritual. I mean, how could you be? You're human. Of course you're spiritual. How could you not be? You are gifted with this precious life, with this holy body, with amazing access to miracle and manifestation. No human being is outside of that equation. Now bring your hands into prayer and sprout them out from your chest, reaching up to the ceiling. Stretch your arms up, lift up your feet, gaze through that wonderful little spy hole in between your soles and dive through. lifting yourself up. Now, since we already did butterfly, we're not going to do it again, but we're going to go into caterpillar. So you're going to stretch your legs straight forward. You can have them a little bit more loosely straightforward, so not squeezing them together. Theoretically, even having room for your rib cage to land in between your thighs. You can roll the fleshy part of your bum underneath you, lift up your heart, and then just start to walk your hands forward, working your way attentively into the pose and then softening. This notion is it's a little uncomfortable for us, this idea of, or no, let me rephrase. For me, it's not uncomfortable to call all human beings spiritual. For some human beings, it's uncomfortable to refer to themselves that way. In esoteric Christianity, there's a similar kind of picture where Jesus Christ died for the renewal of the etheric body of the whole earth and every human being. Now, this is true regardless if you take it up as your understanding and your belief and your practice. This is something of, this bodhisattva nature, where an act has been committed for us, whether or not we are aware of it. In the bodhisattva path, it's this, there's no end to reincarnations until every being or every human being can reach nirvana together. Now inhale, roll up, place your hands behind you, and let's do some lions. So bend your knees and lift up your hips, drop your head back, look at your third eye, stick out your tongue as far as you can with a whisper, roar like a lion. 2 more times. Squeeze your hips, lift up into the back bend, and 1 more time. And then bring your hips back down and maybe subtly wipe off your chin. And we are going to come into Sphinx. So letting your elbows be slightly in front of your shoulders, your legs be comfortably wide, letting your hips drop. And it's early morning, so let's take some morning wows. Maybe you've already done some, but you can't do too many. So just let your whole face explode in a lovely, gorgeous wow, 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 wow. Beautiful. Feel your shoulders dropping down your spine, your back. Feel how the shape of your breath feels when you breathe in this pose. When you breathe out. Now, this distinction that I think people are getting at or attempting to get at when they say something that to me sounds crazy or silly or obvious. Like, oh, I'm really into spirituality, or I'm interested in spirituality. I'm practicing spirituality. What I think we're trying to get at is this phenomena that we know when we give ourselves to something, we bring more life to it. So when someone says, you know, I'm interested in spirituality, I have a spiritual practice, or I'm very spiritual. I know people say it. They're trying to really let you know their willingness to participate in this invisible realm. And maybe even looking for community, for Sangha. For a place to feel at home or a sanctuary compared to maybe where they've grown up or what they experience in other places in their life. Regardless of how it is actively pursued, this quiet space in the interiority of all of us human beings is part of what's validated and strengthened by our attention to the invisible. Because we start to notice that in our inner world, in our inner life, that is where we're connected to it. It's as if these words we whisper in our interiority are an umbilical cord to the spirit, or can be. Now, either stay here, or if you want to extend your arms and lift up into seal for the last minute of Sphinx, feel free. This crazy personal, impersonal space of our inner life is also where we can allow invisible forces of a negative nature in as well. So it's where we can connect to great spirit, but it's also where we get we can get stuck in downward spirals of darkness, depression, fear. Carolyn Myss always points out that the invisible technologies of good and evil work in the same way. And too often, when we're fighting our own spiritual nature and trying to deny it, that same incredible capacity that each one of us carries in us to connect to the invisible, unconsciously connects to these forces of making more solid and relying on the heaviness of material, or this kind of lifting up out of ourselves and beyond ourselves into a realm of fantasy, or blocking us from actually reflecting on our own processes. All of these imbalances lead to a darkness in us. Start to lower yourself down, and we're going to go into sleeping lizard. We're going to do a little twisty twist thing before we get some awakening movement. So bend your right knee and your right elbow and take your gaze to the right. If you've ever read Damien by Hermann Hesse, he puts forth this notion of a God that is equally good and evil. Now, it's provoking to a lot of people who have grown up with this idea that God is just good, because it adds a layer of complexity and actually collaboration that isn't comfortable. Now, keeping your right knee bent, lift up onto both of your elbows and thread your left arm behind your right elbow, grabbing onto your right knee and softly flipping yourself open by opening up your right arm and allowing your shoulders to come to the mat. You could take a full breath and sigh out your exhale through your mouth and notice how your body softens and relaxes. But as a lot of fiction does, it shows us a truth in a way that we can't see it otherwise. And in it is this kind of elegant pictures of ultimately evil is working towards our own good as well, which is very, very advanced to understand. But we can understand it better when we notice that it's the middle path that has light and illumination and celebrates life, so that we need some of these solidifying powers in the world to keep us here on earth, to keep us grounded and not just excarnating out. And we need this like effervescence impulse to lift up out of the heaviness of the earth, but not so much that it lets us leave. So together, those forces help us be awake in choosing the balance between these forces. We can also think about how when we lose our capacity for reflection, for contemplation, then that spirals us in to denying a true human capacity to choose. So these forces aren't inherently just evil. It's the imbalance that either imprisons us or separates us, or kind of strips us of choice, or the feeling of not having choice. Now roll back onto your belly, and we're going to come into sleeping lizard on the other side before we do one more twist. So bend your left knee, bend your left elbow, looking to the left, and just feel how wonderfully the ground is holding you. It should be a very passive and softening posture. So more and more, as we live into the dynamics, we start to notice that light and darkness need each other to understand each other. It's a little bit, it's the yin and the yang concept that in every, like the yin and yang describes creation in the whole world. And there's always a little bit of yang in the yin, and there's always a little bit of yin in the yang. And that brings this dynamic nature of duality into a creative force. We want to start to apply this type of thinking to beyond binary. Beyond binary. So we're not just constantly yin and yang, flipping back and forth, light and darkness, but good and evil. But we want to start to understand that there are dynamic forces of threes, of fours, of fives even, that also have this creative impulse, that have this kind of collaboration out of which our humanity and our spirituality is possible. Now lift up onto your elbows again, keeping your left knee bent, and thread your right arm behind your left arm and gently whip yourself open. Take a full breath in, and with your exhale, sigh out, noticing your whole body soften. Noticing again our inhale. So it moves through our body in this shape, the natural pause. Noticing your exhale. The natural pause. When we approach our beingness and our body as holy and a mystery, it can really spark our creativity and curiosity to notice, what are we here for? What's my role in my own becoming? How do I reconcile my spiritual nature, my invisible nature, with the manifest world? With modern times. And then start to roll all the way onto your back. You might have to scoot back on your yoga mat. And you're going to hug your knees to your chest. And we're going to shake and wiggle first, of course. Hug your knees into your chest, and we're going to rock and roll. And I want you to rock and roll about 9 times. It is the number of creation. And you're going to rock up into a seated position so that we can add some sound of ohms to help initiate our fiery vinyasa, our waking warmth. So sit either Seiza style or cross-legged or easy pose, half lotus, full lotus. Bring your hands to prayer. Close your eyes. Maybe even take this moment to dedicate the effort and fire of your practice to someone or some virtue. And let's sound 3 ohms. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. And then relax your hands down, uncross your legs, and make your way into tabletop. Woohoo! So come to the table so we can find some cats and some cows. Should really be going to the farm. Okay. Wiggle around a little bit. Wiggle your shoulders, wiggle your hips. And then find a neutral spine. So you're engaging slightly in your abdominals. You're active on both sides. And then with your inhale, you're going to lift up your head, your heart, and your hips. Moving into cow. Sorry. And with your exhale, meow into cat, letting your spine lift up towards the ceiling. You're bringing your chin in. You're looking at your belly button, really efforting, pulling your abdominals up and in. And inhale into cow. Feel your shoulders moving away from your ears. Feel the reach and the stretch in the whole front of your body. And reverse it. Exhale, move into cat. Engaging your Uddiyana Bandha, engaging your Mula Bandha. And inhale, lift up to cow. Now you're going to tuck your toes under and exhale, move into downward facing dog. You can wiggle your legs around a little bit, kind of pedaling your feet. The movement starts to lubricate your joints. You can lift up your right hand and shake out your right hand. You can lift up your left foot and shake out your left foot. You can lift up your left hand and shake out your left hand. And then you shake out your right foot and shake out your right foot. And then take a full inhale. And with your exhale, just sigh it out. And then inhale, roll forward into plank. Bending your knees, push back like a locomotion train into downward facing dog through bear. Inhale, roll over the top into plank. I feel like a little bit like this is a wave. Let your breath match it. And exhale, push back into downward facing dog. One more time. Inhale, roll forward into plank. And then feel the power you use to reach back into plank, downward facing dog. Beautiful. Take another fueling inhale. Empty your breath all the way. While you hold your breath out, look forward and quietly hop your feet in between your hands. Inhale, halfway lift, and keeping the lift, separate your feet hip distance apart. Place your left hand underneath your chin, bend your left knee, and stretch your right arm up to the sky. Take a full breath here. Another inhale. And then with your next exhale, switch your hands, switch your knees, and stretch your left arm up. Full breath cycle. And then with your exhale, bow forward. And roll up with your inhale, one vertebrae at a time, stretching your arms up all the way to the ceiling. If you're pear, maybe you can palm the ceiling. If you're not, you're reaching your fingertips up to the ceiling. And then bring your hands down, Samastitihi. Inhale, stretch your arms up. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, halfway lift, feel your heart full. And then step back to plank. So we're getting a little down and dirty. We're going to raise our temperature quickly. So take a couple breaths here in plank and get as dynamic in it as you can. So you want to feel your fingers spreading out, feel your heels reaching back, feel your belly lifting up, feel your tail slightly tucking, feel your chest moving forward, your gaze moving forward. Maybe you're starting to shake. And then without any rush, slowly lower yourself down with your exhale to Chaturanga and then the floor. Inhale, low cobra, toenails push down into the ground. Lift up your chest with just your back strength, low baby cobra. And then exhale, you can push through child's pose or go straight to downward facing dog. Allow yourself to settle in your dog a little bit. Take another full inhale, empty your breath all the way, and then hop your feet in between your hands quietly. Inhale, halfway lift. This time, fly your wings, stretch your arms out. And with your exhale, hug the back of your knees, letting your head drop towards your shins. Root down and roll up, stretch your arms up, look up, maybe a baby back bend. And then exhale, Samastitihi. Find your center and release your hands. Inhale, stretch your arms up. Exhale, bow down. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, Chaturanga. So you can step back to plank and lower down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Feel your shoulders pinching back together towards one another. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your right leg straight back, keeping your hips squared. Now pull your toes to your shin. So you're really reaching with your heel. And then sweep your straight right leg out to your right, as if you're lifting your leg up over your neighbor's, if you had a neighbor's hips, or up over a low bush, perhaps. Now try to bring your big toe into your right ear without bending your knee. You should feel an acute burning sensation on the outside of your thigh. And then inhale, stretch your legs straight back, point your toes. Now bend your knee and let your hips spin open and reflex your foot. So we're doing a little whoop, whoop, whoop. Yes. Square your hips. Maybe get light on your left fingers. Allowing your Ujjayi breath to be part of the warming dynamic of your practice. And then step your right foot to your right thumb. Left knee gently comes down to the ground. And inhale, supported crescent lunge. Now you can drop into the stretch and squeeze your hips together and find that beautiful medium in between those two spots. Maybe extend your spine and start to look more upward. And then ride your breath all the way down to Chaturanga with the exhale. Inhale, upward facing dog, feeling the expansion of your front body. Toes pointing straight back and active. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your left leg straight back. Now flex your foot, reaching with your left heel. And you're going to try to sweep your left leg all the way out to your left so that you're making like an L in between your inner thighs. So it feels very, very intense on the outside of your thigh. And then stretch your leg back, straight back, Point your toes, it should feel good. And then bend your knee and let your hips spin open, reflexing your foot. Beautiful pair. Bring your heel towards your buttocks. Get light in your right fingers if you want to help you square your chest. And while your hips start to spin, take another full inhale. And with your exhale, step your left foot all the way forward to your left thumb. Let your right knee gently come down to the ground. Now already, gauge your thighs and lift up. So we want to start to notice that the dynamics of our practice are part of what give us the freedom, the feeling of freedom. So feel the gentle squeeze of your thighs, even as you drop towards the stretch in your thighs. Lift your heart up and back. And then ride your breath. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Point your toes, lift your heart, make it a whole body posture. And then exhale, downward facing dog. You want to start to feel that your breath is getting a little faster, maybe a little more dynamic. Start to deepen it. And that is adding to the heating, fiery elements of our yang part of our practice. Take another full inhale. Empty your breath all the way and then lightly hop your feet in between your hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Feel your chest expand, maybe flying your arms. It can feel good. And then exhale, beg nothing. Hug the back of your knees. And then sweep your arms up. Utkatasana. And we're going to bring our right arm with our exhale underneath our left arm and come into Garudasana arms, eagle arms. Now, find the weight in your heels. You can even lift up your toes for a second, and you're going to braid your right thigh over your left thigh. Now, first, lift up your chest. So you have a nice upright spine and you're balancing your vertebrae over your heel. And then with your exhale, bring your elbows down to your knees. Unwind your right leg. Reach back with your your right leg and stretch your fingers forward like you're playing tug of war with yourself. Beautiful. Now save just a little energy so you can rewind. Come back, braiding your right thigh over your left thigh. Lift up your heart. Feel the radiance, the extension of your spine. And then inhale, stretch your arms up, straighten your legs. It should feel good. And with your exhale, sit back into Utkatasana. Oh, yeah. And then sweep your left arm underneath your right arm. You want to make sure your thumbs are closest to your nose. Now, first, keep your heart lifted so you're not sticking your butt back as much here. You really still have your spine over your hips. And then bring your left thigh over your right thigh, squeezing together. You might have to adjust things, get things out of the way. Now lift up your heart. Let your hips sink. And then bring your elbows down to your knees and unwind your left leg. As you reach your left leg back, reach forward with your bound arms, like you have like an eagle's beak. Let your chest move forward, squaring your left hip, and then rewind. A small bend into your right knee helps. Yes, braid your leg. Maybe it's a deeper bend. Lift up your heart. Feel the radiance. And then inhale, stretch your arms up. And with your exhale, bow forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Walk or float. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your right leg up to the sky. With your exhale, tap your right knee to your left elbow. Inhale, stretch your right leg to the sky. Exhale, tap the other elbow. Inhale, stretch your right leg to the sky. With your exhale, step your foot forward, rise up, crescent lunge. And with your exhale, open arm twist to your right. Inhale here. Exhale, warrior two. You might feel the ta-da. Inhale, reverse your warrior. And with your exhale, chaturanga. It's okay. I was thinking reverse triangle, but reverse warrior works. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, stretch your left leg up to the sky. With your exhale, tap your left knee to your right elbow or higher. Inhale, stretch long with your left leg. Exhale, tap your left elbow or the other elbow. Inhale, stretch your leg long. Exhale, step your foot forward. Inhale, lifts you up, crescent lunge. Exhale, open arm twist to your left. Inhale here. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, reverse your warrior. And exhale, vinyasa. Inhale, lead with your heart, but point with your toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, move forward into plank. And then see if you can go slower than your neighbor. Oh, wait, there's no neighbors. See how slow you can go down to chaturanga and the floor. Yes. Now slide your arms back behind you. Bend your knees. Lift up your feet. Flex your feet. And grab onto your ankles. So you might have to separate your knees to get your ankles, but then you can slide them back together once you get the grip. And now you're going to keep your knees on the ground and your thighs on the ground, and you're going to pull your legs back and let it lift up your chest. So it's a nice variation here. If you have children around, maybe you can train them to sit on your feet this way. Hopefully your children aren't too fat, but you kind of wish they were here. I can't. I'm too light. And then slowly lower yourself down to the ground. I'll try to get a better angle. Let your body soften for a moment. One of the things we start to notice is not only what can we do, but how do we recover? I don't want you to be too comfortable yet, too sleepy yet. Because, magic lives in threes, huh? So kick up your feet. And this time, again, you're going to flex your feet. It's a harder variation, but this is really training you to keep more length in your back. Grab onto your ankles. And now pull your shins back already as much as you can. Beautiful. And I think I can be a little bit more fat if I reach, like if I put my weight back here. Now I'm depending on you not to collapse, Paros. We all go down. So no pressure, but pressure. Lift up your heart. You're amazing. Let yourself smile, even while you're working hard. Work isn't the enemy of us. And then slowly release and let everything go. Work is really part of our liberation. It just has to be the right work. The one that we came here for. Okay, now we're going to work on the whole spine for this last back bend. So kick up your feet. This time pointing your toes, grab onto the outsides of your feet. And up you go, lifting everything. If you want, you can keep your hips on the mat. Get the power of your big toes pushing forward to help you bring your knees and toes in line with your hips. Allow yourself to breathe, to look up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then lay yourself down. And roll onto your back. I know, we need the double wide yoga mat today. And we're going to do a quick little twist, about 3 breaths on each side before our sweet, sweet, sweet Shavasana. So hug your knees in. Whether you like one knee or 2 knees, yogi's choice, but keep your right knee bent And take your knees or your knee to your left. Your gaze to the right. And then roll back to center. Switch your legs. Either both knees in or your left knee in, and take your knees to the right. Gaze goes up to the ceiling or to the left. And then roll onto your back and stretch your legs long, coming into Shavasana. And we're bringing you into Shavasana when you still have a lot of fire in you. So as you come into Shavasana, maybe notice that. And notice how, this is too small. Notice how the fire settles. You sure? Okay. Ooh. With your next inhale, invite your awareness to the edges of your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes, your face and your nose. Allow your next inhale to stretch your body long. And with your exhale, curl into a ball. And if it's okay for you, you can roll onto your side, or you can roll straight up into a seated position. Find yourself coming to a comfortable place. Half lotus, full locust. Lotus, full locust is not comfortable. Okay. Bring your hands to heart center. With your eyes closed, just notice we're not alone in this moment. We're in this world. Maybe lift up the image of someone you've dedicated your practice to, or remember the virtue. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love to you. Woo! Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Yeah.